fellow human beings. Dion here. I'm just going to have a bit of a chat in regards to my place of origin, where I was born on Earth, and the multiculturalism side of things. In regards to what we have going on, re the situation we're in, re our worldly concerns. I'm a Kiwi by birth. I was born in New Zealand. Scottish background to go further back. I moved over to Australia in the late 80s. In New Zealand, or both countries, New Zealand and Australia, are a very multicultural sort of setup. And I've got no issues with it. I'm a bit of a fan. I feel it works if it's done right. No doubt there's a few hiccups in the works these days in regards to the inwards looking protectionism type scenario that we have going on. And I'm not just talking about New Zealand, Australia, I'm talking globally at the moment. But I am a big fan of the multicultural approach. But it can be a bit of a double-edged sword if we don't get it right. Hence the inwards looking protectionism side of things. But I grew up in a world where I could walk down the street and pretty much, give everybody a bit of a nod, how you going, sort of thing. And within the realms of reason, off the top of my head, I don't really recall any issues where it was a problem for me. Generally speaking, I got a nod back and, it went well, sort of thing. So, I am a bit of a fan. And the same situation goes for over here in Australia. Very similar thing. Australia and New Zealand are quite similar in many ways. So yeah, it's I am a fan, but it's very much a double-edged sword. As in, as I mentioned, the inward-looking protectionism side of things, which is very much is trending in this day and age. It's sad, really. We went beyond all our localised borders a long time ago. We're a global community these days. It was just going to turn out that way with the system that we live by, the economic system. We trade on a global level these days, so yeah, we're a global community, which suits in regards to the multicultural side of things, because as I said, we went beyond all our borders a long time ago. There are different degrees in regards to, like I said, New Zealand and Australia, but it's not quite like that in some other countries. But regardless, we are a global community. You tell me one place on earth where I could go and I wouldn't need a wallet. I could just, I'll get a feed. I'll figure it out and the feed will pop up at the end of the day, sort of thing. It's just not that sort of world. Folks talk about things like socialism and communism. Me, for instance, back in the early days when I was first jumped online, many folk would call me a communist or a socialist. Go back to where you came from, sort of thing. Like I said, quote me if I'm wrong, but there is nowhere that I can go on earth where I don't need a wallet. So, even though in principle the idea still exists in regards to things like socialism and communism, they, in actual fact, those ideologies got absorbed a long time ago, and it's capitalism all the way these days. So really, give or take, that's our objective as a global community these days. We'd have to have a pretty good think about it, but if we were to say, off the cuff, what's the short and long term objective of the capitalism economic system? Not too many of us could come up with more than short term profit margins based outcomes. That's it. That's our objective. How we get there is, it is what it is, obviously, because otherwise we wouldn't be exploiting the heck out of Earth and each other in pursuit of those short-term based profit margins or short-term profit margins based outcomes. So yeah, that's kind of a, it's not an objective I'd be aiming for, to ask me. I think we should be sort of having a bit of a sit down and sort of thinking about the long-term side of things as a species. I'm talking intergenerational, compatibility with Earth, us. It's not just about compatibility with Earth. We have to be compatible with each other as well if we want to be a multicultural based global community that gets on with each other and treats each other with a bit of dignity and equality. There's equality involved, etc., etc. So yeah, if we wanted to go beyond the short-term profit margins-based outcomes approach, we'd have to sit down and have a bit of a rethink as in where we're heading. So all of it, multiculturalism, our personal face, all of it would have to be factored in. But today, the first thing that popped in my head was the multiculturalism side of things. So we'd want to, like on New Zealand and Australia, not necessarily numbers-wise, as in how many of this background, how many of that background live in the same location on Earth, but on a global level, we would want to sort of aim for something similar in regards to how I can walk down the street and give anybody a nod and hi, how you going, and a similar response. We sort of want to aim for that area, give or take, if we want the multiculturalism way of thinking to work in the long run in regards to the future of our species. So, I do recommend we have a bit of a sit down and work on that side of things and try to make it a little bit better than what it is, especially with how it's playing out these days, the inwards looking side of things. Because as much as I'm in favour of the multiculturalism approach, it can be a bit of a double-edged sword sort of scenario if things go out of whack, so to speak, which is where we're heading. The protectionism approach side of things is what I'm talking about. It's unfortunate, but that's where we are. And unfortunately, it's not really something like we have time to sort it out, because we're backing ourselves into a corner, or we're already backed into a corner in regards to our climate change problems. So if we want to go into the future and sort of keep getting on with each other as we go, sort of stuff, it's something that we need to sort out, and time is relative. It's not like we can take our time. Sort of, if it was a situation where Earth wasn't in trouble, we had ample resources available to us, or let's say our population was the same, but Earth was a heap bigger, or our population was lower and Earth was the same size as it is now, we'd have room to move. It's like in the past with World War One and World War Two. World War One, very sad stuff. Bit of a hit. It gave us a bit of a shock. It was all over, and we sort of settled down. Okay, we've got to try and work things out and get on a little bit better. Settled down for a little while. Then World War Two came about, and very sad stuff again. A lot of sadness. All over. Oh, okay, we've got to settle things down. That was a bit of a shocking experience for us. And in the case of World War Two, the United Nations was set up, etc. And we proceeded forward. A few decades have passed. We're sort of done all right, compared to, it's a lot of wars and stuff going on, but it hasn't been a world war, so to speak. But the situation we're in these days in regards to, we're not exactly getting on in the best of terms, from that one day to the next in regards to our worldly concerns. Excuse me, breathing, life. And, our Earth problems are right there. So, time is relative, because the simple fact that, our Earth problems are right there. So, in principle, if we didn't have our Earth problems, like I was saying, we could probably even take a few hits in regards to the inwards-looking approach that we have going on these days. But we don't have that time to spare. If we want to be a fully functioning global community as we proceed into the future, we're going to have to be able to cope with our climate change problems as they evolve, and they are going to worsen. It's just that simple. We're at tipping points right across the board as far as Earth's capacity to look after us and ecosystems and all of it. Our food corridors, it's all under pressure. So we've got some delicate moments heading our way. I'd be surprised if we're even up to the challenge of once we really click, the major or a big portion of us really click in regards, okay, we do have some serious Earth problems heading our way. That in itself is going to be a very stressful moment for us. Our species, what do we do when things go wrong? Generally speaking, we go a bit we get a bit, okay, and stress out. So I begin to doubt, are we even in a situation where we're going to be able to cope with that sort of stress at this point in time? And I'm talking about, food corridors are going, etc., etc. So things we need to get us through from one day to the next, it's not going to be so convenient into the future. So it's going to be stressful. So we're going to be able to work through all that and maintain the level that we're at currently in regards to how we're moving as a global community, or is it going to deteriorate more? And that's something we do have to be concerned about at this point in time. And that's just to get through the moment when we realise that, there's no avoiding the fact that we've got some earth problems. But if we want to stay, work through that moment and kick on as far as, okay, we've got some earth problems, we need to address them now. We need to work through that moment, all the stress involved. We need to stay a functioning global community, or let's say become a fully functioning global community, so that we can step up as a global community and address our climate change problems best we can. And that's not an overnight sort of project. That's we have to have our foundations, solid foundations in place in regards to us as a global community. We have to be, right across the board, our personal faith, our cultures, the multiculturalism side of things, as I was saying. It has to be rock solid so that we can be that functioning global community, so that we can work in our climate change problems as we go. Because it's not going to happen overnight. It's at this point, even right now, we're talking about an intergenerational problem if we want to step up and address our climate change problems to the degree that it's going to improve over time, and for each generation that passes, it's going to be a little bit better, sort of thing. But it's a big ask, because I only have to turn on the news in this day and age, and it's a sad state of affairs. And I talk about Australia and New Zealand, the multiculturalism side of things, but there's a lot of stuff going on in the world, like the two-state solution, etc. It's not really working out as it should be, really, the multicultural side of things across the globe. But we need to make it work, to figure it out, to make it happen. And I am a fan of the two-state solution, the history of it, World War II, etc., etc. This approach isn't working out that we've got going on right now. And I'm not going to go there because this is a different sort of chat, but I will go there if it's requested of me. But in this moment, just generally speaking, we need to get our land on our feet, so to speak. We'll take a step back as a whole, and we need to, okay, right, we've got to figure all this out. So we need to have a big all-in discussion. As I tend to say, I used to call it point B in regards to why I'm online. We need to have an all-in, globally based, democratically based discussion. All the facts on the table, the lot, and we need to start creating a common ground, a workable common ground as a global community in regards to how we're going to proceed forward into the future. So right from the start, the foundations need to be very solid in regards to the ground we're standing on. I call it the democratic, ground that we're standing on. If we're going to make it work in the long run, if those foundations have any cracks in it, from point A, it's not going to pan out in the long run. So, but saying that, we need to have a go at it, take a swing at it. As such, I highly recommend we do. We need to. Or else it's a slippery slope sort of scenario we're in currently, and to stay on that path, it's going to be, there's the edge over there sort of situation, and we don't want to go near that edge. Trust me, my fellow human beings. At very fundamental levels, we're a subspecies of mammal, and we reside on a finite nature planet. If that planet starts losing its ability to sustain us, with so many of us on Earth, several billion, we're in trouble. We don't want to go near that edge. Trust me. But each their own. We all have our different opinions, but at the end of the day, we're all living on the same finite nature planet. And like I said, if we don't figure it out, we are in trouble. So anyway, just a couple of thoughts in regards to that specific side of things. I couldn't really nail down anywhere else I'd want to live at this point in time, world-wise. I'm quite happy with where I reside at. Whether it be here or New Zealand, it's just, this is where I've been most of my life. But I'd love to, even though I'm heading for 60 and I've got a couple of health issues, going on, I'd love to be able to travel the world and see that multicultural, the diversity of it all. I've watched so many documentaries and that over the years. I've never really done much travelling, apart from coming here to Australia from New Zealand. I went to Fiji, did a lot of scuba diving in my younger years, and Fiji was part of that process. That was a great experience, but I would love to see all the rest of it. And I'm a little bit concerned that, even if I got myself in a position to do that at this point in time, I'm worried with how it's all playing out on a global level. So I'm kind of happy just to sort of sit where I am at the moment and do the best I can in regards to, my trying to contribute the best I can in regards to, okay, we need to figure things out. And hence this is a part of that process. The whole Me Online side of things was a part of that process. There is a personal journey side of things in regards to why I'm online, and it's to do with the objective that we aim for. And for the type of species we are, and the fact that we reside on a finite nature planet, it's a viable option. It really is. I've been online for a dozen plus years now, and I'm stayed my ground, so to speak. I haven't budged. But for the type of species we are, and the fact that we reside on a finite nature planet, it's very viable. And if we do land in a place where we get this discussion that I'm talking about underway, and we do it in a, all put all our cards on the table, all the facts, all of it in regards to, all our cultures, our personal faiths. We want to have the word equality involved, sustainability, as in we're compatible with Earth on an intergenerational level side of things. Logically speaking, give or take, we will land on the objective that I've been talking about all these years anyway. Short form, I call it the GMS equation, the democratically based GMS equation. It's around, it's a bold print, but I don't need to go there today. That's no secret, that sort of things. But yeah, I do recommend we have a bit of a sit down, my fellow human beings, start working on the solid foundation side of things in regards to where we're heading as a global community. We've got all these multimedia platforms on the internet these days. We could make it happen. Algorithms and all. There's several billion of us. If we really wanted to, we could, override those algorithms, so to speak, if we're all on the same page, in regards to what we're talking about. But it's up to us. I'm just putting the thought pattern out there, a recommendation, if you like, and I highly recommend that we take a swing at it, so to speak, as in let's get that discussion happening. Anyway, I'll leave it there, my fellow human beings. Thanks for your time. I appreciate you putting up with me over the years. For those who know me, I can be pretty, I'm a bit talkative, even if it's typing or whatever. I tend to, I keep going, so I appreciate it, and thanks for that. Cheers. Regards, Dion. Peace to you and all, including all our future loved ones as yet to come. Gone.